Hey friends, welcome back. Today we find ourselves in the town of Smithers, just a few hours down Trans-Canadian Highway 16 from where we left you last time. We had just stocked up with groceries and were taking the kiddies for a walk before we got back on the road. The four of us had had a lot of driving time lately, and the kiddies were especially ready to get out and stretch their legs. The trail was covered with crunchy leaves, which had Tyga a little spooked. Come on, Tyga! But our little ranger Nettie had no concerns, and per usual, she trotted along, leading our pack. Right here, oh my gosh! Wow! They're so cute and little! Wow, so we were just driving into our campsite for the night, and a couple of bears were just on the road. Little black bears. I don't know, you can just barely...
there's one right there.
Barely see them.
Oh.
There's this guy climbing a tree. Wow. Oh my gosh. How cool. No way. Alright. So that was our first up-close bear experience. So we better really be careful when we're cooking tonight. They're nearby. Alright, so we found our camp spot. This is another recreational spot in British Columbia, and they're super nice because they're free. It's just recreational areas. So this one is on a lake, in a park. There's lots of hiking trails with bears, as you saw. So hopefully we'll be able to get the kitties out, take them on a trail. We'll just have to make sure we bring our bear spray today. But we've got a nice spot here. We're about the only ones here too, so nice and quiet. Tiger, where are you walking?
She's a lazy bones.
Right?
I'm gonna have to start charging her for all these rides.
Ooh.
Wow.
Come on, Tiger.
Doing a little better now.
Yeah. Got a nice little trail here. Luckily, no bear encounters yet. Hopefully there won't be any. But I guess we'll see. Tiger's feeling like a slowpoke today, so me and Nettie have taken off on our own. A cute little trail. Some nice evening views. So pretty. Don't you think, Nettie? Talk about golden hour. This is it. Got a tiger, baby.
Yep. Doing a little better now.
Yeah. Sounds like it. It looks like it.
Yeah, it really is a nice sunset. Lots of colors. It's a pretty good little trail too. Go, Tiger, go.
Ooh, it's getting dark. I think we're almost back to our campsite. And Nettie is getting tired. Slow and steady, Nettie. Keep it going. coming to you from Prince George, British Columbia. We got up this morning and we left our cute little campsite by the lake. We didn't see any more bears, which isn't necessarily a bad thing since we did a little hiking last night with the cats. And sadly, we also didn't see the aurora last night.
Yeah, as far as chances to see the lights, last night was actually the best chance we've had since we've been watching for it. We've been using this aurora tracker map, and the amount of radiation that was coming into the atmosphere spanned a pretty good area throughout Canada. However, the cloud cover was so thick that we weren't actually able to see any of the lights. So a little unfortunate that we haven't been able to see them yet. We'll keep trying, although our chances are diminishing at the further we go south. So we may miss out on them, but we saw lots of other good stuff while we were up north, so not too upset about it. However, still got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see. We're definitely heading south pretty quickly now, making some good ground. Today is a bigger driving day. We're going for somewhere between 4 and 6 hours, kind of depending on how much we stop. But it seems like winter is catching up with us pretty quickly. We're trying to make our way towards Vancouver, hopefully by tomorrow evening or the following morning. The weather is supposed to take a turn, I think maybe by Friday, and it's Wednesday. So by Friday there's supposed to be freezing temperatures and snow. So we've got to head towards Vancouver. Some people might be kind of confused by that, but Vancouver is actually pretty temperate, pretty mild. Just being on the coast, it seems like year-round they don't get super cold weather, or I don't think they get much snow either. I think it's fairly similar in weather patterns to Seattle, from what we know. I'm not an expert, but we did go there once when we went and skied in Whistler. So we did that one winter, I think in January one year, and they still had green grass, and while it was cold, it wasn't freezing. So we'll see. Hopefully that is what we're gonna find this time too. But anyhow, we are making our way through the prairie again. We have left the mountains. It's definitely smoky here. So we haven't run into too much smoke really throughout our trip, to be honest. But once we were on the Cassier, we ran into some smoke along there, just in a few patches. And when we were passing through Smithers the other night, we did run into some smoke around that area too, but just a little bit. Although as we've driven south today, we've definitely found quite a bit more smoke. So I'm not sure if it's gonna hang around all the way to Vancouver or not. It is wildfire season though, so I guess we'll see. We stopped for lunch, and now we're taking the kitties on a little trail walk before we continue on our drive. Good job, Nutty. You're doing very good.
I need to turn back.
Let's go. Come on. You did it! Hi, Nutty. Almost there, Nut. There she goes. Poor little tiger baby's having a rough day with these waterfall sounds.
I heard a ringing bell this morning, and it woke me from a dream. And in that dream I heard a warning, saying leave the rest, take only what you need.
We're on the road again, heading south. We're about 2 hours north of Whistler right now. We've had quite a bit of driving time the past couple days, still trying to stay ahead of winter. Freezing temps are not far behind us. We're staying about a day ahead of them. We decided to take the scenic route south. Right now we're on BC 99, and there's been a pretty good terrain change. We've got a lot of what looks like arid and dry land, and almost reminiscent of sand dunes. Looks like definitely some very sandy soils in this area, which is much different than where we were previously.
Yeah, so it's interesting because it's arid, but it's also very mountainous still. So coming through here, I mean, these are some huge mountains, and they drop down to what I wouldn't call valleys, but at least down to the river, and it's just wild because, you know, prior to this, we've mostly been in alpine territory where we've had big mountains, but also lots and lots of lush greenery and trees. So these are different views. It's hard to believe we're only about 2 hours from Whistler too, because that is very alpine. So clearly this doesn't last for long, but we're enjoying the views while they last.
So the road has changed pretty drastically. It was a bit of a whimsical decision to take Highway 99. So we didn't really do any research. It's now just gravel highway, and we've gone down to a 30 km/h speed limit. So hopefully it's just for a short period. It actually does look like it turns back to pavement up there. So I was almost getting the feeling like we were back on the Dalton Highway just for a quick second, but luckily that feeling did not continue.
I heard the falling rain this evening, and it put me in a dream. And I got that old time feeling. A little rest is all we really need.
4.7 meters. I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's a little canal.
Wow.
Seems like we just passed a little canal.
So keep on singing to those who listen, 'cause you can make it on your own. Time goes slowly, the world gets lonely when you got no one.
Okay, we've made it back into the Alpine Mountains. We've been zigging and zagging up and down these mountains. It's been super pretty. It actually feels a lot like Glacier National Park, but maybe even better and definitely less busy. But we've been enjoying it.
Time goes slowly, the world gets lonely when you got no one on your side. You gotta love one another, sister and brother, 'cause you only got one ride.
We've been coming down the mountain, literally, for quite a while, and we decided we should stop because there's another sign for steep grades ahead. David was a little bit worried about the brakes, but good thing we stopped because actually we got out and the brakes, the brake pads were smoking a little bit. Kind of crazy. So we're sitting here giving them a little rest. He's seeing how they do. The other thing we actually just noticed was it's very smoky over here. We're maybe 20 miles, I think, from Pemberton, so we're pretty close to Whistler, and it's been very clear. We've had beautiful views, but over here, I don't know if you can see in the distance, it looks like it's just very cloudy. You can hardly even make that mountain out in the distance, but I think it's actually smoke. So we'll see what the air quality is like over here. We were thinking we might stop and do a hike tomorrow in Whistler before we head on down towards Vancouver, but if the air quality is like this, we might just continue onward. We're continuing on, but taking it very slow. There's actually very steep grades ahead, and We're continuing to go down. There was actually a sign that said trucks should not go more than 10 kilometers an hour and put on your flashers just because it's so steep here. So luckily we have trailer mode on the truck to help the brakes out a little bit. We're hoping they don't overheat again. There are so many runaway lanes here. I guess that just goes to show how steep it is.
So a little bit of a scary situation. We're coming down a pretty large mountain with some fairly steep grades. I think it got as steep as 11%. And me not really thinking about the brakes overheating. I was just going down the hill like normal. Not really. I was in tow mode, but I was still going kind of quick, speeding up, slowing down around the curves. And the truck actually popped up with an alert right as we were coming to a pull out, luckily, to reduce braking to avoid overheating. I was like, well, I'll just pull over and stop and we can let them cool down. And as we got on the pull off, both front brake pads were actually smoking pretty good, so they were definitely overheated. And really we just got lucky that there was a pull off right when we needed one. So we set probably for about 15 minutes, and then the remainder of the slope down, I put the truck in first gear and we just took it nice and slow to avoid overheating the brakes anymore. Doesn't feel like I've warped a caliper or anything that bad yet, so hopefully the truck's brakes are okay and it just got a little warm. But we're down the mountain now and driving on some flat roads, so that should help them cool off pretty quick. So we made it to our camping spot for the night. Definitely got some good views, got a little bit of sun shining in on us, but it wasn't the hairiest road we've driven down to get to a campsite, but it was a little bit hairy.
You're good. Keep going. Ooh, sliding.
Definitely a lot of big rocks and loose rocks and somewhat steep inclines. We took it slow and creeped on back and actually got the truck mostly level. It was a bit of a challenge. Should be good for a good night of sleep. We got the river rushing in the background. That should drown out the little bit of noise we can hear from the highway. Pretty nice temperature tonight too. It's maybe about 50 degrees or so.
Yeah, and luckily it seems like the smoke has cleared. It may be more back in the distance, so we were a little bit worried. So we weren't all that far from when we were talking about the smoke, but I guess maybe it's more north of here or something. So pretty clear here, so that's nice. Be good breathing. Mostly fresh mountain air. Left our rocky campsite this morning and we're making our way towards Whistler right now. Luckily the way out was not too bad, just a bit bumpy, but we made it pretty quickly. So we're coming into Whistler now and we're really reminiscing on colder times. We've been here in the past and it's been snowy. You can see the runs up ahead, but it's all green so far. At least down here. We were just talking about how high the mountains are here, so you can't see too much past the clouds, right? And it looks like maybe that's the top of the runs, but actually the mountain goes way, 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 way higher, so we just can't see it. So David said, well, maybe there is snow up top. We just won't know. Definitely a bummer we're not able to ski while we're here. I think we'd have to stay at least another month before the slopes open, which is just a little bit too long for us. So sadly we'll miss it this time, but it's cool to come through again and kind of go down memory lane.
Just train wreck hike very near to Whistler. It was a pretty cool little hike, not super long. It only took us around 40 minutes round trip, but it was a nice trail and it had a pretty cool suspension bridge. But the item of interest was actually the train wreck. So back in 1956, a logging train was traveling from Squamish down to Whistler. And this train track was actually the only route between those two cities, so it's pretty important to keep that train track open. So the logging train was running way behind. So on their way to Squamish, to try to make up time, they were actually going double the normal speed limit on the track. And when they came through a narrow pass, one of the engines actually derailed, and it derailed 12 train cars. They said 7 of the train cars were not salvageable, and then the other 5 were, but the 7 train cars that are still there was pretty cool. There was a lot of graffiti and other art painted on the sides of them, and there was actually some ramps coming up to a few of the train cars. Where I guess it's a popular spot for like BMX and dirt bike riders to come and ramp over the top of the train cars. So definitely a pretty neat little spot to stop at.
That might be our ferry. Can you guess where we're going? Find out next time on Two Cats in a Camper.